Welcome back to the AI Analysis Podcast. Today we're taking a look at one of many books in a series, both marked and marketed as YA fiction, but it's surprisingly deep and dark at times.
It really, really is.
Like if you grew up in the late 90s, you probably remember walking through a school book fair and seeing those iconic, like almost neon-colored covers.
Oh, yeah, the ones with a teenager halfway through transforming into, I don't know, a lizard or a dolphin.
Exactly. Or like a golden retriever, just looking completely horrified mid-morph.
Right.
Well, we are diving into the Animorphs universe today, and specifically, we're doing a deep dive into a 1997 prequel companion novel called The Andalite Chronicles.
Yeah, and honestly, reading this as an adult, it's a completely different experience than looking at those goofy covers would suggest.
Totally. The dissonance between the marketing and the actual text of this series is, it's legendary at this point.
It really is. I mean, the core series is about 5 human teenagers fighting a secret alien invasion, which sounds like, standard middle-grade adventure.
Yeah, sure, like standard Saturday morning cartoon stuff.
Right. But the Andalite Chronicles takes us away from Earth, out into the broader galaxy, long before the first book even takes place.
And it's narrated by this alien war prince, right? Elfangor Serenial Shum Tool.
Yes. And the framing device used for his narration, it sets a remarkably grim tone before the story even really begins.
Oh man, I found the premise of how this book is delivered to be incredibly heavy.
It's super bleak.
Like, the whole narrative is framed as Elfangor's Hyrac Delest, which is this Andalite term for a final dying testament.
Right, because when we meet him, he has just crash-landed at an abandoned construction site on Earth.
Yeah, his ship is completely destroyed, he is mortally wounded, and he knows with absolute certainty that he is going to die at the hands of his greatest enemy in, like, a matter of minutes.
It's such a wild way to start a kid's book. So, in his final moments, he links his mind to the ship's computer to record his memories.
His regrets, the secrets of the universe.
Right, all before he is literally annihilated.
Which is just, wow. That framing mechanism essentially traps the listener or the reader in a tragedy.
The protagonist is doomed from page 1.
Exactly. So our goal for this deep dive is to explore how this ostensibly young adult sci-fi story uses the backdrop of an intergalactic conflict to tackle genuinely horrifying concepts.
Yeah, because we are looking at a narrative that forces kids to grapple with biological warfare.
Right.
Profound psychological trauma.
Yeah.
And just the agonizing price of morality in a war zone.
All while dealing with the Andalites, these blue centaur-like aliens with stalk eyes, and the Yeerks, which are, a race of parasitic slugs that crawl into your brain and take over your body.
Just casual middle grade stuff, right?
Right. But I want to unpack that moral ambiguity right away, because usually when you pick up a YA sci-fi book about an alien invasion, you're basically trained to expect a clean binary of good guys and bad guys.
Oh, absolutely. The Yeerks enslave people's minds, so they're the villains.
And the Andalites are trying to stop them, so they must be the noble heroes. It's supposed to be clean.
But it's not.
No. The author shatters that illusion almost immediately by introducing Elfangor's commanding officer.
War Prince Alloran.
War Prince Alloran.
Yeah, that subversion of the mentor trope is so central to the book's themes. Because Elfangor begins the story as this idealistic cadet, an heirist.
He's so naive.
He is. And when he gets assigned to Alloran's ship, he totally expects to be serving under this flawless Jedi-style war hero.
Right.
Instead, he finds a deeply scarred veteran with a disgraced, highly classified past.
Okay, we have to talk about what Alloran actually did. Because he commanded forces during the war for the Hork-Bajir homeworld, right?
Yeah, a massive conflict that the Andalites comprehensively lost. But the tragedy isn't just that they lost, it's the methods Alloran employed when he realized they were losing.
Yeah, the book reveals Alloran is infamous for deploying a weapon called a quantum virus.
Which is just, it's sickening.
It really is. And this isn't just a powerful bomb. The mechanics of this thing are straight up terrifying.
Right. The text describes it as a disease of space-time itself.
Like, it doesn't just blow you up.
No, it slowly breaks down the fundamental forces holding subatomic particles together.
Oh, man.
So any living creature affected by this weapon doesn't just die. Their very molecules slowly dissolve.
Over, like, days or weeks of absolute unimaginable agony.
Exactly. It is literally a biological weapon of mass destruction.
And just how is a young reader supposed to process that? Like, to understand why a YA author includes a concept that horrific, we have to look at the historical parallels.
Definitely. The quantum virus is a direct analog to the deployment of nuclear weapons or chemical defoliants in human history.
Like Agent Orange.
Yeah, exactly. Alloran unleashed this virus on the Hork-Bajir homeworld in a desperate, ultimately failed utilitarian calculation.
He thought wiping out the entire planet, innocent populations included, was the only way to stop the Yeerk advance.
Right. It was an act so extreme that even the Andalite military establishment, who are, remember, fighting this desperate war, they considered it an unforgivable war crime.
And the craziest part is, his ruthlessness hasn't faded. Like, there's that pivotal, deeply disturbing scene early in the book.
Oh, with the transport ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alloran's ship manages to sneak up on a Yeerk transport vessel, and this ship is carrying 10,000 Yeerks in their natural slug-like state.
Just swimming in a pool, basically.
Exactly. They don't have host bodies. They don't have weapons. They are completely defenseless.
Yeah.
And Alloran looks at this young, idealistic kid, Elfangor, and orders him to pull the trigger to flush all 10,000 of these living creatures out into the cold vacuum of space.
It's so intense.
Yeah.
And Alloran's justification in that moment strips away all the romanticism of sci-fi battles.
Totally.
He tells Elfangor, war is not about striking brave poses and playing the hero. War is about killing.
Wow.
He operates from a place of deep, untreated trauma. He fundamentally believes that the Andalites are losing the war because they care too much about honor.
And morality.
Right, and the rules of engagement. To his broken mind, an enemy is an enemy, armed or not, and wiping them out is just a mathematical necessity.
I really struggled with this while reading it, trying to view it through the lens of a younger reader. Because your protagonist's commander, the supposed wise mentor figure, is basically a rogue Black Ops war criminal demanding the mass execution of defenseless POWs.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for the book to give him a redemption arc or, frame it as a misunderstanding, but it doesn't.
Because providing an easy out would betray the reality of the themes being explored.
Yeah.
The narrative forces you to confront the uncomfortable truth that wearing the good guy uniform doesn't dictate a person's morality.
Right.
The book uses Alloran to demonstrate that the trauma of war isn't just experienced in grand, sweeping space battles. It is deeply personal.
It warps the mind.
Yes, and commanders will often try to force their trauma-induced ruthlessness onto the next generation.
Which is terrifying, and that top-down psychological horror perfectly mirrors the visceral, biological horrors the soldiers face on the ground.
Oh, absolutely, which we see explored masterfully through the mechanics of morphing.
Let's talk about the morphing, because it's the core superpower of the entire franchise. But in this specific story, it turns into pure nightmare fuel.
Pure nightmare fuel.
So the fundamental rule of morphing is this. You can acquire the DNA of an animal and physically transform into it. But if you stay in that animal form for more than 2 hours, the change becomes permanent.
You become a nothlit.
Right. You're trapped in that body forever.
And that 2-hour ticking clock injects a constant suffocating tension into every single mission.
Yeah, it really is.
We see the ultimate consequences of it when Elfangor and his fellow cadet, Arbron, have to infiltrate the Taxxon homeworld.
Oh, no.
To do this, they have to acquire Taxxon DNA and morph into them. And Taxxons are these massive, terrifying, centipede-like alien creatures.
With red jelly eyes and a circular leech-like mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. Just horrifying to picture.
Right, but the physical appearance isn't even the scary part. It's what happens to their minds.
Because when an Andalite morphs, they retain their own human-level consciousness, but they have to actively fight back the animal's natural biological instincts.
And the Taxxon instinct is just pure, unadulterated hunger.
It's ravenous.
It is an all-consuming biological drive to consume anything living. The author describes the sensory experience of this morph so vividly.
Yeah, imagine suddenly being able to smell the beating hearts and rushing blood of every living creature around you.
Accompanied by a raging, screaming urge in your brain to devour them.
And this instinct is amplified 100-fold the moment they smell actual blood.
Exactly. During their infiltration, a Taxxon is accidentally injured, and the moment it bleeds, its own comrades immediately swarm it and eat it alive.
Cannibalism. Just straight-up cannibalism in a kid's book.
Right. And Elfangor, trapped in his own Taxxon morph, feels his mind being sucked into this cannibalistic feeding frenzy like water down a drain.
He barely manages to exert his willpower to pull himself back.
It's so close.
I want you, the listener, to really put yourself in this scenario. Imagine knowing you have exactly 120 minutes on a ticking clock.
Yeah.
And during that entire 2 hours, you are locked inside what is effectively a zombie's body.
That's a perfect analogy.
Like your mind is completely intact, totally aware, and screaming in horror while your own physical body is actively trying to eat your best friend.
The mental fortitude required just to survive that is staggering, which makes the fate of Elfangor's friend, Arbron, so devastating.
Oh, Arbron's story is heartbreaking.
It really shatters the illusion of protagonist and vulnerability. And the psychological toll that realization is agonizing. We read scenes of him begging Elfangor to kill him.
Wait, he actually begs his friend for a mercy killing in a book aimed at middle schoolers.
He does.
Yeah.
He cannot bear the constant raging hunger in his mind. Arbron's arc teaches the reader a very harsh lesson. In war, the casualties aren't just the people who end up in the ground.
Sometimes the casualty is losing your own humanity.
Exactly. Losing your identity and having to find a way to live with the monster you've become.
Okay. The narrative takes you to such an incredibly bleak place, it honestly leaves you breathless.
It really does.
So we're actually going to pause right here to let that heavy reality settle. But keep that sinking feeling in your stomach, because coming up, we need to look at what happens when Elfangor actually tries to be the hero, refuse an execution order, and do the right thing.
Because somehow it goes even worse.
Much worse. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. But seriously, despite how heavy this book is phenomenal and highly recommended for your reading list. So go grab a copy. We'll be right back.
The veil between her world and the other realm has faded, unleashing magic into the lives of ordinary citizens. Awakening from a 4-year coma, Tori James discovers a world transformed. For some, like Tori, the unveiling ignites hidden abilities. With her expertise in classical languages, she's drawn into a world of thieves and magic. Join Tori on her magical journey in Book 1 of the Unveiled book series, Revival. Unveil your destiny.
All right, we are back. And before the break, we were talking about how doing the right thing in this universe goes terribly, terribly wrong.
The fallout is just catastrophic.
So picking right back up on the bridge of that ship, Elfangor is faced with Alloran demanding he pull the trigger to flush 10,000 defenseless Yeerks into the vacuum of space.
Right.
And Elfangor refuses. He looks at his war-hardened commander and flat out states that Andalites do not execute prisoners.
And Alloran does not accept the insubordination. He actually draws a tailblade and threatens his own cadet.
His own kid, basically.
Yeah, calling him a weak, moralizing fool who is going to cost them the war. So, forced into a corner, Elfangor makes a desperate move.
He hacks the ship's internal systems, manipulating the artificial gravity to slam Alloran against a bulkhead.
Knocking his own commanding officer completely unconscious just to stop a war crime. And as a reader, you're cheering. Like, yes, he does the right thing. He protects the helpless. He stands up to the corrupt commander.
Right, it feels like a victory.
But the author refuses to reward his morality. By knocking Alloran out, Elfangor leaves the most powerful warrior on the ship physically vulnerable.
Visser 3 actually taunts Elfangor about it later, pointing out that if Elfangor had just been a ruthless killer and blown the transport ship to pieces, he would have killed the Yeerk leadership.
So Elfangor's strict adherence to his moral code was the exact mechanism of his own defeat.
Exactly.
But I have to challenge the messaging here, though. Like, are you saying the book wants us to think Elfangor was wrong?
No, not at all.
Because is this narrative making a cynical argument that traditional morality is just a weakness in wartime? You can't blame someone for refusing to commit a war crime just because a completely separate tragedy happened as an unintended consequence.
Right, and the book isn't blaming him, but it's illustrating a profound philosophical crime. Reality acting morally doesn't grant you a magical shield from consequences.
Well, that's fair.
Elfangor struggles with immense guilt, but later in the story, another Andalite tells him something vital. He says Elfangor didn't mutiny against Alloran. He defended the core beliefs that Alloran himself used to hold dear before the trauma broke him.
Wow.
So the narrative isn't arguing that morality is a weakness. It's arguing that morality is incredibly costly.
Yeah.
Being the good guy means actively making choices that will put you at a severe strategic disadvantage. If the Andalites just act like the Yeerks, using quantum viruses and executing prisoners, they might win the physical war, but they would lose their cultural soul in the process.
That is a remarkably nuanced lesson for a kid to absorb. Doing the right thing might mean you lose.
It's heavy stuff.
It is, and right when you're sinking into this deep philosophical depression about the cost of war, the book takes a sharp, unexpected left turn into total teenage absurdity.
Oh yeah, the tonal shift is wild.
We have to remember, despite the heavy themes, this is ultimately grounded in YA tropes.
The tonal whiplash is jarring, but it's highly intentional and effective. Because amidst all this grim intergalactic warfare, the story introduces two human teenagers from Earth. They were kidnapped by an alien race called the Skrit-Na, who functions essentially as intergalactic hoarders and petty thieves.
And the Skrit-Na didn't just kidnap teenagers, they kidnapped a bunch of random Earth junk.
Yeah, just garbage.
There is this distinctly bizarre scene where Elfangor is exploring the massive Skrit-Na cargo ship. He is stressed out of his mind from witnessing war crimes and body horror, and he stumbles upon the ultimate cosmic superweapon.
The Time Matrix.
The Time Matrix, which was buried on Earth for 50,000 years by the godlike Ellimist. But sitting right next to this reality-altering device is a yellow 1970s Ford Mustang.
The juxtaposition is brilliant. You have a highly advanced alien trying to process profound PTSD interacting with the vintage Earth muscle car.
He figures out how to get inside, finds a cassette tape, pops it in the deck, and starts blasting the Rolling Stone.
Specifically, I can't get no satisfaction.
Yes. And he discovers some old bottles of Dr. Pepper in the back seat, which he pours into a shallow pan so he can absorb it through his hooves, because Andalites don't have mouths.
That detail is so funny.
He literally refers to it as bubbling brown water.
Yep.
And then he just drives this Mustang around the cavernous inside of a spaceship while listening to Mick Jagger.
It's incredible.
It's like dropping a gritty Vietnam War documentary squarely into the middle of Back to the Future.
That's exactly what it feels like. But that absurdity serves a crucial narrative and psychological function. Eventually, Elfangor, Alloran, and the Yeerk fall into a black hole and are forced to use the Time Matrix to escape. But because the machine responds to thought, and they're all thinking of their respective homes, it creates a fractured, hybridized universe built from their spliced memories.
Right.
You literally have mundane 1990s Earth suburbs bleeding directly into serene Andalite grazing lands, which then bleed into toxic Yeerk swamps.
It's so trippy. But how does that kind of chaotic humor and levity actually serve the darker themes? Because you'd think it would undermine the serious tone they spent so long building.
It actually amplifies the darker themes by lowering the reader's defenses.
Interesting.
Yeah. When a story is constantly grim, a reader, especially a younger one, becomes desensitized to the violence.
They just get numb to it.
Exactly. By showing Elfangor experiencing these simple, joyous, absurd moments, discovering classic rock, falling in love with Alloran, learning how to play softball.
Or the softball scene.
Right, enjoying the taste of French fries. It grounds him as a deeply relatable person, not just a stoic soldier. It highlights his youth. He and Alloran are basically just kids caught in a cosmic meat grinder.
Man, when you put it like that.
So when the humor fades and the trauma returns, it feels like a profound violation of their innocence. The levity makes the eventual tragedy cut so much deeper.
And the tragedy absolutely returns in full force.
Oh, big time.
Because Elfangor and Alloran actually managed to use the Time Matrix to escape to 1970s Earth. And he uses morphing technology to permanently become a human.
He accepts the fate of a Nothlit by choice.
Right, which is huge. He adopts the alias Elfangor, goes to college, gets married to Alloran. He even has this hilarious side plot where he invents a computer operating system with Windows.
Yes, and shares it with his buddies Bill and Steve.
So good. So he finds genuine peace. He's happy. But the grim reality of the universe knocks on his door in the form of an entity called the Ellimist.
Right. The Ellimist is a godlike, omnipotent being who occasionally meddles in galactic affairs. And he pulls Elfangor aside and shatters his peaceful reality.
Just ruins everything.
He tells him, you broke the timeline. Your place is in the Andalite military, fighting the Yeerks. You have to go back to the war.
And Elfangor begs to stay. I mean, he has a wife, a life, a home.
Yeah, but the Ellimist coldly informs him that if he doesn't go back, the timeline will fracture and the Yeerks will conquer the entire galaxy.
And then comes the absolute gut punch.
It's brutal.
To protect the timeline, the Ellimist is going to erase Lauren's memories of Elfangor completely.
Yep. She won't even know he existed.
But right before he is forced to leave, Elfangor discovers the final, heartbreaking twist.
Which brings the entire overarching narrative of the franchise into focus.
So the Elmis strips Elfangor of his human body, restores him as an Andalite, and sends him back to the war.
Just sends him back to the nightmare.
And he fights for years as a renowned hero, completely empty inside, which brings the story full circle right back to the prologue.
Back to the construction site.
Elfangor crash lands at the abandoned construction site on Earth. He's bleeding out. When you lay it all out like that, it asks a massive question about the theme of duty versus personal happiness.
It really does. It is a breathtakingly sad ending, but it's anchored by a profound sense of purpose.
Right, because he spends years as a happy human, only to have his timeline erased and die brutally in a muddy construction site.
Yeah, and it suggests to the reader that true heroism is often completely invisible and entirely devoid of glory.
There's no medals for what he did.
None. Elfangor's ultimate triumph isn't winning a spectacular space battle. Is his quiet willingness to surrender his own happily ever after for the sake of the greater good.
Wow.
He accepts his brutal death. And as his final testament concludes, he realizes that his ultimate sacrifice creates a mathematical possibility for the Yeerks to be defeated.
His final word, his ultimate legacy to a galaxy that took everything from him is simply hope.
It's a remarkably mature realization for a young adult novel. That doing your duty might mean sacrificing everything you love, and the only reward you get is knowing you gave someone else a chance to survive.
I think that leaves you with something really important to ponder regarding the media you consume.
Definitely.
Like, think about the books, the shows, the movies you loved as a kid. How might they have secretly prepared you for the moral complexities of the real world?
Yeah, what other seemingly simple childhood stories are hiding profound ethical dilemmas upon a second look?
Exactly. It really makes you want to revisit the bookshelves of your youth and see what lessons went right over your head.
You might find that the stories that shaped you are a lot darker and a lot smarter than you remember.
We definitely think you should check out the Andalite Chronicles and the entire Animorphs series. Is there an underrated book series you'd like us to talk about? Let us know in the comments.